Yo,
Was good.
Wagwan.
I think I have an eating disorder. I
No,
track
don't
my, I track my calories.
You do, of
That that's eating disorder.
tracking
course.
calories. Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
Why
You
do
get
you, why do you, why do you, so what is the definition of a disorder?
Google it.
Can't do that much research.
Google it. Google it.
You don't know definition of disorder?
Isn't that like in like DSM-5, like the psychology thing, the
Yo,
psychology that like defines everything? It's like how like if I have autism, you get diagnosed through
so,
DSM-5. If you have ADHD, if you have an eating disorder, you'd have to have a certain amount of qualifications. But what's the definition?
bro, you confuse me. So basically, a disorder is an illness that disrupts normal physical and mental functions.
I have a bunch of disorders.
There's another definition, a state of confusion.
I think
Interesting.
that's like a scientific definition.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
So
guys think tracking calories is an eating disorder?
I do not believe so, man. I've heard this before too. I think it probably comes from the mindset that people think, okay, once I start tracking calories, I have to be all rigid, when reality probably gives you way more flexibility, because you're mindful about the shit you eat. So I don't think it's a disorder. I think people just want to skip some of the work, some of the steps, and they want to not ever hit their goals because it actually takes effort. So definitely not a disorder, but it's more of a mind game. And it's usually coming from people who haven't done it for long enough.
Yeah. Or it's coming from people who like overthink the shit out of it.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's
let
true.
me track this one blueberry. Like I had clients who like come to me before. I'm like, yeah, let's track your food. And they're like, yeah, I used to do that. But then I started tracking like every blueberry and every seed I was eating and I'd like count it. I'm like, Jesus.
That's fried.
Like a
Or like,
handful of 30 calories. Imagine counting every one to make sure you have like
yeah,
seven.
I used to do that. But I used to be fucking like, bro, I used to like sometimes have almonds, grab like a handful, and one of them used to drop, and I used to measure it, and then one used to like go on the whatever floor, and I'm like, fuck, I have to go grab one more almond. But almond makes sense because like it's a
It's higher.
dense 9 calories, bro. Yeah, so that matters a lot. But I do see that. Manraj, do you track calories?
No, bro. I just eat the same thing every day.
It's the same shit. So you know what the calorie intake is, kind of.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I think I think the main concept is you want to know how much you're eating, right? And especially if somebody's watching this, I'm sure like hope people trying to get either jacked or lose weight, they have some sort of goal oriented mindset. Especially if you're watching this podcast, because we're so educational, right? We just gave them knowledge on disorders, definitions of disorders and shit like that. So, but someone's watching this, they obviously have a goal to work towards. So one of the biggest things that should drive somebody when they're working towards a goal is progress, right? And how do you make progress? How do you make progress, Cags?
What do you mean how do you make progress?
How do you make progress? So what do you have to do to make progress? Say your goal is to get jacked or lose weight. What's a sign of progress when you're losing weight?
So the scale either goes down or you look
Okay.
at pictures,
And then what is one of the biggest action items for making sure the scale is going down?
making sure you actually taking the scale reading. Some people are like, yo, I don't
No, inputs for this fucking guy, bro. So
my bad.
no, all good, all good. Need more drugs. So scale needs to go down, right? That's progress. For that scale to go down in weight, what are the action items need to be done for from that individual
Need
to
to
make
eat
sure?
less,
There you
need
go.
to one of
Okay.
the two.
So we'll talk about the eating section. How will the person know if they're eating less or not less?
So if they're not like Manraj and eat the same food every day,
Yeah.
which is I'd say most people,
Yeah.
then you have to understand what you're eating. And I think that's what calorie counting allows you to do. It
That's
allows you
it.
to put numbers to the foods. So when you look at a bagel, you don't see a bagel, you see 320 calories with 20 grams of carbs.
That's a
And
disorder.
It makes everything you're eating quantifiable. That way you could actually measure it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause things aren't quantifiable. You can't measure it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if somebody wants to make progress, make sure you do track your stuff because it's gonna give you way more ROI in the future. And yo, let's we'll dive into the benefits of tracking calories, and we'll talk about, how people can get into the restrictive mindset maybe. Because then obviously there are some downsides to it, like with the blueberry man. So what is I think we already talked about a few benefits. It makes you more mindful, like you start becoming aware of the foods you're actually eating, right? And I think I've seen this a lot with like people, even online, or I did this in the start too. Right when I started tracking calories, I just became aware of like, damn it, why am I eating this when I can be eating all this, right? Like I used to eat Maggie a lot, right? And like kurkure, like shitty foods like that. I don't want to call it shitty foods because some people don't have food to eat. So, but yeah, like calories wise, it wasn't that good, right? So I replaced it, and it was like vegetables, chicken, and rice. A big ass bowl would be less calories than like this small amount of Maggie. It's fucking wild. And the macros obviously way better too. Protein intake, carbs, things like that. And performance in the gym started to improve too. So you become mindful about literally the ingredients in the foods, right? I think that's one of the biggest benefits.
I think
And
it's also like when you start tracking, you start realizing when you eat things mindlessly. So it may not necessarily be the
yeah,
food you have at a certain time, but it's like the snacks that you kind of grab between meals, right? Like if you go to the fridge and you grab like I don't know, like two cheese strings or whatever, or then you go to the pantry and you grab like chips, start tracking all the stuff like, oh shit, this stuff is adding up. But like in your head, you don't really think of it as an actual meal. You don't really consider it as food until
yeah,
you start putting it down. It's like kind of like when you guys go back to finances. It's like the coffee here, your Spotify membership, this, that, like the shawarma, the Lizzie's you buy, like all the little things add up. And like that's totally fine if you want to have the little things, but it's like if you don't know that you're having them, then it's a problem, right? Which is
yeah.
why when you start tracking, not only do you get a better understanding of the food you're eating, you get a better understanding of the food that you don't think or that you don't know are eating. That made sense.
Yeah, like basically, people think it gives you way more rigidity, but actually makes things way more flexible. Because, say, for example, to that point, if somebody wants to eat those cheese strings, right, and they're on a diet, they think they can't eat them. But it's like, yo, you can still actually include them, and that's whatever 80/20 or 90/10 rule, whatever you want to use. It's like if you know your budget of the calories, like you mentioned the finance game, if you know your budget, you can fit things in there and still get whatever goal you have. You can still work towards it. And it gives you way more flexibility instead of rigidity. Because if you're following just like, obviously, some people, like, I also follow like specific meal plan. Manraj follows a meal plan. You sometimes follow a meal plan. Never will follow, and actually, Kags never follows a meal plan. But some people find that part really rigid, right? But tracking calories actually allows you to follow a meal plan a little bit, but also do your own thing, and that way it can be sustainable long term, right? But yeah, it gives you way more flexibility instead of rigidity.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for long-term sustainable weight loss or like muscle gain. It's like
Yeah,
being able to realize that you can actually eat those foods and not feel like bad about that you ate this bad food.
yeah,
Like for example, I had these two clients, they're like these two parents. Um, they started tracking their food 2 weeks ago. And the dad, like I can go train them in person.
yeah,
And they're like, the wife will be like, yeah, we're really good, but he likes to eat sweets. He likes to eat ice cream all the time. I'm like, yo, you guys have like certain amount of calories. And they looked at me, the wife looks at me, she's like, so he has like 2,300 calories. He has like 500 calories left at the end of the day. Like, I don't let him eat the ice cream. I'm like, why? And she's like, ice cream is bad. But if he has the calories for it, then he can enjoy it. This guy got so happy. He was like, what? I can eat
that's
the ice
fucking,
cream. And then like I saw them this morning
that's jokes.
and he's like, yeah, I have the ice cream. The weight's still going down. I'm like, yeah, man, like now you realize you can actually eat these foods and not feel like shit about it. And now their
Yeah,
whole perception is changed. They're like, oh, you don't just have to eat salad and like meat all the time to get into shape. It's like just you
yeah,
eat other things and fit it in, right? It's
yeah,
just being smarter about those choices.
yeah. And this is where people sometimes take this concept right here too far, right? Where like it might be 1,800 calories worth of ice cream, and then the 500 calories worth of like 5 scoops of protein, right? And like I hit my protein intake and my carb intake, but then you're not getting any nourishment, right? So that was, I think, big trend like 6, 7 years ago, maybe like 2013, 14, if it fits your macros. As
2016.
long as 2016, yeah. I learned that from like Chris Jones and Christian Guzman, yeah. But yeah, if it fits your macros, you just eat anything you want. I got lucky that Chris Jones, when I followed him, uh, his meals were like fucking everything was like blueberries, oranges, pineapples. He was really good on like volume of foods during cutting. And that was obviously everyone's main goal, just get lean, lean, lean. But I took it too far at times where I would fucking just have pancakes and I would still include like a Maggie in my diet. And actually, the funny part is, bro, when I did my first show in 2017, I was following strictly if it fits your macros and diet leading up to like the show, like literally a couple days before. I was still eating like protein pancakes. I had like chocolate chips, normal whatever flour, and like everything was just. I was like, yo, what the fuck am I eating? There was like barely any fruits, veggies, nothing. Like, but I was like, if it's macros, I'm still 1,700 calories and I'm getting leaner. The scale's going down, right? So it works, but like you feel like shit and your health is not that great, right? And it probably affects more when you get older and older. So that concept is really good, especially say like someone's trying to find a sustainable route. It's like, yo, have that 80/20 rule, yo. You can even do in a span of a week. Like you can have one day where you're just like, yo, I'm gonna be flexible today. And you're smarter in the foods you eat in terms of, protein, carbs, all that stuff. So you're not going too rowdy on that day, but you're still flexible in the span of a week, right? So, yeah,
Yeah. You said it gets more important as you get older. It probably gets more important as you get leaner too, right? Because
for sure.
then you have less calories to play with. So you can't just eat the shit that you want to eat all the time.
Yeah,
Expect to feel good or expect to feel full. That's
yeah,
when you probably have to like, it's like if you have a tighter budget, you can't go out and ball out at the club every single night. It's like
yeah,
obviously it's a smart decision, right? But if
it's
you have a
true.
little bit more of a looser diet, then you probably get away with it here or there. So I think applying that mindset to it, it's like, oh shit, I'm trying
Yeah.
to really now then, and most people aren't trying to diet for a show. So I don't think they need to get
Oh,
like, or be that strict with their calories or like at that point you'd be following a meal plan to see the best results.
for sure. I want to control all the variables, right? I think, Manraj, do you have anything to say? I know you're cheese, bro. We're doing this topic.
No,
Yeah,
I'm saying, I was thinking, I think the average person, for sure, you could do if it fits your macros. Like it doesn't mean too much, right? If you're just trying to lose weight, if it fits your macros, is fine. But if you're trying to build muscle or you're trying to do a show, this and that, then for sure you want to also look at quality of food as well, right? Like the average person, like yeah, sure you could say the quality of food isn't good, this and that, but the average person is probably not active, right? They're fucking like drinking, this and that. So for them, the healthiest thing would probably be just to drop that weight, right? That way they don't have any long-term issues.
yeah. This probably goes to the, I don't know, if last podcast or the podcast we were talking about standards, where people don't have that crazy standards. If they don't, then yeah, do the if it fits your macros, right? Or if you're just trying to lose weight, calorie budgeting is going to go a long way for you. I think one thing you mentioned, Manraj, was the food quality, and this comes to the benefit of digestion too. When you start becoming aware of like just the stuff you're eating, putting in your like plate and tracking it, you become so aware of the foods you eat. You can easily, sometimes easily, pinpoint if your digestion is getting hindered. You can be like, okay, cool, like I already know what I'm eating. Let me try to swap this for this. But if you're like eating whatever that comes in your mind or in your plate, and things pop up, like say like you get a skin problem or like you get some health problem or a digestion problem, you don't know like what variable to pull from where, right? But if you already have this one area that's like kind of tracked, you know easily, okay, I can just take this out, or I can maybe put this in, or maybe I can lower the carb intake, up the protein, whatever it is, right? Most of us don't even know where we're at, so we're guessing. And we're constantly asking questions like, how do I lose this belly fat? How do I gain muscle? How do I do this? But you have no data to go off of, right? So I think that's a massive benefit too. You can make much faster progress that way because you have a foundation of data, right? Yeah. Data and digestion.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is
Data.
key.
Yeah. Okay, so that's so obviously there's lots of benefits of tracking calories, right? And don't take it as like, and bro, this is the funniest thing, effort wise. Somebody looks at their phone, screen time is probably like 19 hours, right? It's like, bro, why don't you spend like 5 of those hours tracking calories? And initially, what I tell people, yo, find really easy methods, or you just guess your calories, like just guess them. And if you're tracking your body weight, you'll know, okay, like you're not eating enough or eating too much. And then bring a scale in, measure your shit, whatever, right? But yo, you're already on your phone. So download like an app like my Lose It or my Fitness Pal and just track stuff, bro. What happened?
The fuck was my lose it?
Lose It. You have a I was gonna say Lose It, bro. It's like I think it's just called Lose It. It's not called my Lose It.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
It's called Lose It app. It's
I
actually
thought
like
I thought you made it up.
no, not to lose it. I have a couple of guys that use that app, so I
There's
can
like
look at
meter, there's macro factor. There's a lot of different apps out there now.
it. Yeah, yeah.
I think tried and true has always been
My fitness pal.
It's your pal, yeah. What? We all need friends, bro. Okay, so you can just easily pull up your phone, track your calories. It's not as much effort as you think it is. And we might be speaking from like okay, tracking for so long, but yo, like if you just start it, you'll notice like it's not that hard. It's just all in your mind. Just implement, execute, and it'll be much faster.
And even if you're starting off, like you can start off by just tracking 3, 4 days a week, right? And just tracking those meals. And if you have similar meals, like that's what you're going to be eating, right? It doesn't have to be every single day when you're at the beginning. But then, like we said, as you start to see progress, or if you don't see progress, that's when it makes sense to start tracking more because you don't have the right data to make the right decisions.
Yeah. And bro, this is one thing I try doing to things, like tracking calories, even like tracking body weight, uh, is adding some significance behind it, right? So that could look like anything. That could like say like somebody's here is trying to lose 80 pounds and they want to lose 80 pounds to like play with their kid, like because they keep running out of breath every time they go up the stairs or like play baseball outside with them, whatever it is, right? So like attaching some sort of significance towards the action item. And that could be like tracking calories every time you're not about to do it. You think about, fuck, man, I'm going to be out of breath playing with my kid and I'm going to miss his whole childhood. Or if you have a goal of competing, that's totally different because you probably are already tracking calories or following a meal plan. If you're not tracking your calories, you're trying to compete and you're trying to be a bodybuilder, bro, like just quit. You're probably never going to get anywhere. So, but no, I'm serious, right? Like if someone's, they're like, oh, it's too much effort. It's like, why are you trying to get on stage? Right? That's going to be way more effort than you think it is. So, but yeah, add some significance behind action items, and then they'll become a little bit easier to do because your mind is more convinced to do them, right? If you don't have any like why people do businesses, they know money is going to be in their bank account, so it drives them to do whatever shit needs to be done for their business, right? So if you can add some crazy significance, yeah, what are you gonna say? Are you gonna say anything, Manraj?
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I'll tell you, you went like this or some shit.
No, I didn't do anything. I was just doing this, like fixing my beard.
Okay, me too. But yeah, basically add some significance. All right. But yeah, if you want to make good progress, if you want to stop being small, track your calories. But again, that being said, there are some downsides to it. Some people can take it too far, right? So what would you say there's some downsides, if there are any?
Um, I think when you start really overthinking the shit out of it, start tracking every like morsel of food, like yo, I didn't have this grain of rice. Start like getting confused between 250 grams of rice and 256 grams of rice.
Yeah.
Uh, Start like tracking individual blueberries and fruits. It's like that's probably not necessary, especially if it's like relatively low calorie foods. Things
Yeah.
like berries, things like fruits. Like I don't really track those. I don't put those into my fitness pal because I know
Okay.
the calories of those is gonna be like 30 or 40 or 50, right? Which in the grand scheme of things isn't gonna be the big difference, especially for someone just trying to lose weight or gain weight.
Okay.
Probably better off focusing on bigger rocks, right? So things like the rice, the potatoes, the roti, the shit you're actually eating, um, because that actually has more calories, has more substance, and you're probably eating a lot more of it. So like stop, I think getting bogged down by the details of smaller foods can be very, very, very easy to that can be a downside.
I agree. I used to do that all the time. I still sometimes do. So
What do you do?
like someone will take something off my plate and then I'll go and get more. Or like if someone grabs like a piece of chicken, right? Or like if like I cook the air fryer and I make like chicken breast in it, right? And it's like 140 grams, but I'm supposed to have 150. I just spent 15 minutes making it. I'll spend another 15 minutes making another batch so I can get 10 more grams.
Are you
Um,
serious?
yeah, it's dumb. It's stupid. But yeah, like little shit like that would, I guess, I don't know, but like I've gotten better at it where I'm like, okay, I'll just next meal I'll do 160 grams, right? Instead of, but yeah, so like sometimes I go rowdy like that, and then like sometimes at one point I was like tracking every vegetable too. That was like I think 60 calories in total for the day, or 70, whatever it was. But I was tracking every single little thing. Um, yeah, but it can get like that, 100%. And then that's where you like almost like you spend so much brain power tracking that that's when it becomes in your mind like, oh my God, this is so like so much effort, so rigid, right? But if you just add some calmness behind it, it's like, oh, it's not that serious. You just have a range, and then you have other progress tools that you're using, like pictures, measurements, weigh-ins, all that progress in the gym. If those things are going well, like you're good, man, right? Maybe you got to be extra dialed in if you're gonna step on stage in like 4 weeks or whatever. Um, but that's when you're probably following a meal plan. But yeah, let's be more flexible with it. Will go a long way in terms of not leading to any disorders, right?
And there's a learning curve to it too, right? Like you said at the beginning, it can feel like you're using a lot of brain power, but that's gonna be with anything. Like say you're learning how to use like, I don't know, Excel for the first time. It's gonna
Yeah.
feel very overwhelming, feel like a lot. Or like riding a bike or whatever. Like first time you rode a bike, you probably weren't on that thing without training wheels, just one handing it, right? Like it's gonna take some sort of brain power for you to actually accept that it's an easy thing. Just like with training, you're not gonna go in there and bench 225 on your first day. You're gonna work your way up to it because it's gonna feel really hard at 225. Um, so it's just like any other skill, there's gonna be a learning period, and you kind of have to accept that. Where it's like, I say this to my clients all the time. It's like if we're tracking, it's like, yo, first 3 weeks, probably gonna fuck up, probably not gonna be the most accurate thing, but just you building the habits of tracking is gonna allow you to be better because 3 weeks later, like then we can start making changes to things, right? So it's just like accept that there's going to be a learning period, just like with anything else. That could be a downside because it's not immediate results or immediate things right away. It can be, but like there's going to be a learning curve to it for it to feel more natural.
Yeah, even like 60% is better than zero, right? So even if it's not accurate, it's still better than nothing.
100%.
And bro, like I think that thing is almost like a long term, not a downside. It's probably way more upside to it in terms of the whole idea of like inconvenient stuff, right? Like I've been having this conversation like embracing like the inconveniences. Probably heard it on like Andy Frisella podcast. Um, but like they talk about how like First Form, their supplement company, they send like a thank you letter to every single customer that comes in, like a written one, handwritten, which is like really inconvenient and it puts in more work in terms of their employees, right? But that one thank you letter, when the customer receives it, they're like, holy shit, this effort the person put in, right? But that inconvenient action leads to so much greater ROI because if the one person tells like 10 people, but I'm talking about it on like a thing, right? So all the 7 people that are listening, it's like you went for like 2 to 7 now, eh? It's fucking sick. But like, so like all the they're gonna be like, holy shit, who's first from? Who's Andy Frisella? Let me whatever, watch them, right? Um, because they did that little inconvenient thing. That's how I look at calories. It might be a little inconvenient, but the ROI on it is so dumb. Like you're gonna get whatever results in the gym, uh, weight loss, muscle gain, whatever it is. But also if you view it as like a tool that you're building discipline, that discipline can carry over in all the areas of life too, right? And then you can apply that same concept, business, studying, relationships, everything. There's inconvenient stuff. Your brain's like, oh, this is actually a good thing. So you just twist your mind and fuck with your mind a little bit. But like anytime something feels inconvenient, it's actually a good thing. That means I'm heading in the right direction, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
concept. Yeah,
all detail, right? And it's just learning to cross your T's and dot your I's. That's gonna go a long way in the long term of things, right? Um,
sure.
it's like I don't know if you guys hear this a lot, but when you look at powerlifters, the big gripe with them is that they skip their accessories or they don't like
Mm,
push their accessories. It's like that's something where it's like if you want to be good at what you're doing, you actually have to do it and you have to do everything to a certain standard, right? So
yeah,
it's like you look at calories or something, I was like, oh, it's too hard for me to do. You've already kind of lost the game mentally just on that side, and that probably you just have to look at what else are you losing at in life because you're not doing this one thing that is just like a slight inconvenience to you, right? So it
yeah,
carries over to a lot of other things.
yeah. And it's funny. Usually, like people like have this issue of like they're being stuck or hit a plateau or not tracking calories. Like they tend to like do workouts sometimes the workouts consistently, their sleep is consistent, they're consistent like for years and years, but they're not doing this one fucking action item of the calorie intake, and they look the same for like 3 years in a row. So imagine if you just put your head down, I'm gonna do this for 3, 4 months, 6 months, you'd be like, I'm never stopping this, because you probably make more gains in those 6 months than the last 3 years, right? So, but yeah, so I guess we came from the downsides to actually upside. Eh? But there's a couple common questions we get for tracking calories, right? Like especially in our thing, it's like, yo, bro, how do I track my mom's roti? First off, you guys go watch the roti podcast. Manraj said and Kag said, don't even eat your mom's roti. So that solves a lot of things. Um, so
That's
that's
just
one.
crazy, bro. That's just wild. That's crazy when I talk to like 28-year-old men and they're like, yeah, I eat whatever my mom makes
Yo,
every night.
actually, yeah, I don't want to
And
talk.
it's like, bro, sure, bro.
Okay, but a
And
common question.
their goal is to get a girl. Nice. Awesome. Anyways, go. What are you saying?
So the common question is like, how do I track like foods that are like hard to track, right? Like mom's food, or is it like eating out? Like, how do you track those calories? Kags, I know you eat out. How do you track that, bro?
He doesn't.
Depends
How
on
do you?
what.
Yeah.
Like if I'm cutting, bro, I'm always tracking it, right? If I'm bulking, I usually just leave a certain amount of calories for it. Like I don't necessarily put it in. With that being said, most things you're gonna eat out, especially in my fitness pal or even your mom's food, is gonna be there. Um, People that ask that question haven't even tried.
Yeah, I haven't even looked.
Yeah, I
Haven't
haven't
even
looked.
looked. People will be like, some of my clients will send me pictures. They're like, "Yo, how do I track this?" And I'll literally go into my fitness pal, I type in the thing, and it's right there. I'm like, and I send a screenshot, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you find it?" I'm like, "Bro, did you even look it up?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Come on, man." So it's just like, one, look it up. If you look up roti, there's like 3 billion results, right? Like my fitness pal is a
13 pages, bro.
international page. There's people from all countries using this app. Your food is gonna be in there. I was talking to one of my other clients, and he's like, once you realize that like the foods that our culture is eating, other cultures have variations of that food too, right? So it's just like if your culture has it, another culture probably has it, so it's probably in my fitness pal, right? So just go about, like you said, just guessing it, even putting in there like one roti might say like 200 something calories in my fitness pal. Just track that for a certain period of time. If you notice your weight's still up, then you probably have to overestimate the calories of my fitness pals, like bump it up to 250, right? But I think the first thing is like look it up into my fitness pal. Second thing would be find the closest thing to it. If I go to a taco place and I get like 3 tacos, and it's like 3 chicken tacos or whatever, and I look at it in my fitness pal, it might not be that exact restaurant where I'm getting tacos from, but how different are tacos going to be from one restaurant to another in terms of calories, right? It might be like 50 or 60 calories, which isn't the end of the world at the end of the day, right? If I'm cutting, I always overestimate. If I'm bulking, I always like underestimate depending on where I'm at. So just choose similar options. If you really want to get anal about it, you probably break down the ingredients that are in the thing. So if you're getting a burrito bowl, then you can be like, oh, this has like a cup of rice. This has maybe like, I don't know, 100 grams of chicken. Just eyeball it. And that's going to put you in a much better place than not tracking anything at all. So that's usually what I tell my guys. Um, or number three, look at the menu. I think most fast food places have their calories on their website or on their menu. So just look at that before you decide to just give up on not tracking. I think those are my 3 biggest things. You guys have anything else to add to that?
Even if you track the calories wrong, as long as you track them wrong every single day, you'll still see progress.
That's it.
Even if you think you're eating 2,500 calories, but in actuality you're eating 3,000, if you track it consistently every day, eventually you will drop your calories to 2,200, which will actually be 2,700, and you'll still lose weight, right? So even if it's wrong, just pick the same thing every single day on MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, I used to say the exact same. I'm like, yo, being consistently inaccurate
Is
is
accurate.
way better than, yeah, not doing anything about it, right? Because you can still see trends. If you're tracking weigh-ins and pictures and shit, you'll know, okay, yo, clearly, like, I'm not at 25 or not, I'm not in a deficit. It's like Manraj said, the person will drop it to 22. But one thing I will say too, when this question comes up, I'm like, I usually ask to you, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve here? And it's usually nothing significant. It's like, well, I want to, gain some muscle, lose some fat. I'm like, yeah, bro, you can do that, but it'll just take a long time because you're not really that serious about it, right? If you're, because like, bro, I think we were talking about this last time too. Someone asked, yo, is it okay if I drink a couple times a week to get to the result still, or my goal or whatever, right? So if we're asking these questions, you already know there's certain things you gotta adjust if you want to hit that whatever goal you have, right? So kind of ask yourself, what's the action item here? Maybe instead of eating out twice or three times, it's like or four times, maybe just cut it down to one, or cut it down like once every 2 weeks, whatever it is, if you want, right? Or do the stuff we just said, right? But also, if you have significant goals, then you'll take significant action, right? So. But that was a lot of calorie talk. How should we end this, yeah? Oh, actually
And
no, there's still a big thing we're talking about. But yo, at what level, at what point do you go to like, yo, I don't have to track my calories anymore? Like when can you be like, yo, I can eyeball things or I can just, eat based on portion sizes or I can eat intuitively, right? That's what a lot of courses and stuff teach too. It's like intuitive eating, right? What would be the qualification for that, you guys would say?
when your goals aren't as big and you've been working out for 10, 15 years.
Have you been tracking calories that whole time or no?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
But I would say goal is the biggest thing, man. Like, yeah. If you're like 34, you have two kids, like you're probably not too hyper focused on your goals. So people will say they're hyper focused on their goals, but in actuality, they're not, right? So you just have to be realistic.
Yeah, if you're happy or satisfied with where you're at in terms of your physique or like your strength or your gym progress, then like you probably pull back on not tracking calories because it's not a priority for you at the moment. Not the end of the world. Um, just realize things aren't going to be as dialed in as they were, right? Um, Number two, at that point, you probably, if you've been tracking for like a year, I'd say minimum every day, you have a really good sense of what you're eating. And at that point, you can rely on other variables that may not be as super dialed in. So like I'll look at pictures and body weight. Like if I'm seeing my body weight every day and I'm mapping it out, I'm like, yo, my body weight's going up like 2 pounds this week. Probably had a lot of shit to eat the last week. So let me just eat. I just know I have to eat a little bit less, right? And because I have this understanding of this is what I usually eat, I know what I have to decrease on, right? And that just comes down to because I've tracked for so long, I have a rough idea of where my calories are. And I don't think it's the end, like I think you can always go back to tracking calories too, right? If you're like at a position where you're like, well, I'm not satisfied with my physique anymore, it's like, okay, get back to tracking calories to find out where you're at and then kind of close there too. So it's like that's something you can track intermittently. It's like every month or 2 months, track like 3, 4 days of the week just to make sure you have an idea of where you're at in terms of your food and you can kind of adjust based on that too. So that's kind of like the place where you graduate. But if you're not happy with where you're at, then it doesn't make sense to not track your calories because you haven't done what you needed to do to get to where you need to be. Once you're there, then I think like if you don't have any aspirations in terms of improving the physique, then I think you can kind of pull back on the calories, is what I'd say.
Yeah. If you don't have like a goal or anything like that, you're not like yeah, whatever. But I would just say make sure you do build a foundation of like CAG's 1 year calorie tracking or something like that. So you get an understanding of like what portions look like, right? Like common foods we think portions are like way off or on. It's like fats, like nuts and seeds, right? You grab like a full handful and you're like, oh, I don't need that much. I just snack a little bit here and there. Probably like 500, 600 calories right there, right? So just becoming mindful of those little habits. And after that, if you're like, yeah, I feel good. I go for my walks, I go for my gym sessions. I eat like my fruits and veggies a couple times a day. I eat my protein, 3, 4 times a day, whatever it is. It's like, oh, you're good. You're chilling, right? So I think first become mindful of like how you actually eat, which will come through tracking because you'll learn a lot by yourself. And then yeah, if you don't have a crazy goal you want to hit, cool, man. Do your thing, yeah. We
Yeah,
can't force someone to track.
pay attention to weigh-ins, pay attention to pictures, pay attention to gym performance, see how all that stuff is going. And if
Yeah.
that's going good, then I don't think you have to make changes. But if it is, then start tracking again, right?
Yeah, just switch your mindset around this whole tracking calories stuff though. Don't think about it as like so much work on your plate. Like it's literally something where that was a good pun though, your plate. so much work on. No, actually, no, I didn't. But basically, it's not that much effort. It's actually way less work than you think it is. And it will save you a lot of time because you can literally you're on your phone already. You're already gonna eat food. You already have the plate in front of you. So if you end just start guessing initially, that's totally fine, right? So yeah, gang. Any other last thoughts on calories? No? Manraj
Still
still
That's
eat.
cheating.
everything, bro. That's everything about calories. Pretty, we said everyone knows, bro. Everyone knows this calorie stuff.
Yeah.
We
No.
said everything.
Okay.
Yeah, bro. Throughout this, how long was this? 40 minutes? 50 minutes?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. So there's
Okay.
nothing more to say about calories.
Sick. Eat your calories, boys.
Yeah, just track them. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. See ya. Bye bye.
Hope you
Bye.
guys
Hope you guys had fun.